I must say, Nick, that forgiveness is probably the single, if you had to put one word on why my life shifted when I was back in my 30s to a new direction, it was because of forgiveness. My father, a man I never met, but he walked out on our family. My mother had 3 boys under the age of 4. There was a depression. I was born in 1940. My brothers were born in 1936, December, and in 1938. In October, and myself in May of 1940. So 3.5 years, she had 3 children, and this man just left. He spent some time in prison. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive. He was a womanizer. When my mother brought me home from the hospital in 1940, my father had moved in with another woman in Ann Arbor. We lived in Detroit, about 40 miles away, and left my oldest brother, who was just 4, in charge of my other brother, David, who was 16 months, and my mother came home to that. I heard those stories my whole life, and I just grew up with deep anger and resentment and hatred towards someone who could treat a woman that way. Consequently, I was put into a series of foster homes and an orphanage until I was 10, and my mother got us all back together again. And all I ever did was, I would have dreams all the time about this man. And for the first 10 years of my life, I didn't even know what the word father meant, because I lived in a place where nobody had fathers, in an orphanage. And when I found out and then heard what he had done and how he had stolen from people, and it was just everything about this man I had ever heard was just evil. And I ended up, I haven't got time to tell the whole story, but I ended up at his grave in 1974. 10 years after he had died, I found out, and I went down to his grave. And I actually went down there to sort of do something else on his grave. And I had no idea why I was being sent to go down there. I rented a car. I went to a lot of trouble to get down there, and I stood on his gravesite in Biloxi, Mississippi, August the 30th, 1974. And the first 2 hours that I was there, all I did was curse him and ask, how could you possibly behave this way towards such a wonderful woman and have 3 boys and never make a phone call, never even check on this, And I mean, I get tearful now even thinking about it. And so I went back to the car to drive back to New Orleans and go back. I was teaching up in New York at a university there at St. John's University. And something called me back and said, go back to the grave. And I got out of the car, went back to the gravesite, and the words came out of my mouth. I said, from this moment on, I send you love. I forgive you. I let go of all of it. I said, who am I? Who am I to judge you for what you did? You did what you knew how to do, given the conditions of your life. And I send you love.